Hello, my perfect little Lizzie, my little Lizzie. Oh, so she's smiling so big. I would like to treat you like a baby.
I really do not want you to treat me like that at all.
Please let me swaddle you.
I really don't like that.
Let me swaddle you.
No.
Let me for like 10 minutes.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Check this one out. That seems totally fine and appropriate to do.
This really is inappropriate and very weird. This is very weird.
So, okay, you can act like a baby like you're doing right now, but I can't treat you like one.
Yes.
Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein.
So that was, listeners, step one of like slowly weighting you guys into me becoming an adult baby, but like ironically.
All the signs were there. You'll say like a year out.
No, I'm just being like, it's like ironic. Like it's like, you know, like I'm.
Well, wait, are you you're gonna come out as adult baby? Are you gonna be, or is it gonna get leaked that you are an adult baby?
I think. Well, I'm never gonna officially like claim I am one. I'm just gonna do all of the things associated with them, and then deny it if people ask me.
It would be really funny if that became a thing.
Like me,
like people being like, my brave story, and it's like them on the cover of a magazine, like, you know, them coming to terms with their
that'll happen.
Adult babiness.
People, I have a whole. If we ever end up doing like one of our episodes that we've like talked about doing, specifically thinking about the adult baby. Yeah, okay. Anyways, I have a ton of theories on that. As to why, because everyone wants to be a baby these days, and
babies are trending.
Babies are in. People like 32-year-olds were like, I'm not gonna have a baby. Forget that. I'm gonna be one for the rest of my life.
Remember when they were like, wow, no COVID baby boom? Yeah. They're adult babies.
They're adult babies. The Snuggie, I think, is really what like drove. Once that became like a thing that you could own legally. Like once they legalized like the Snuggie type clothing for adults, everything was out the window. And society is, not society has regressed, just people have regressed individually within society.
Hello, everyone. I'm adult Liz.
Hello, everybody. It's so nice to be here. My first day of preschool. My name is Brace.
It's awful.
Belden. 31 years old. White male. And I live at the corner of 17th and Shotwell in San Francisco. We are, of course, joined by producer Young Chomsky. And the podcast is called Truanon. Hello.
Hello.
Hi. Yeah, that's it for you?
That's the podcast.
Listen, today we have, we got a little bit of Epstein. Well, actually, yeah, you know, he's in here. All right, today we got a little bit of, what was this podcast? Epstein. We got a little bit of Jeffrey Epstein.
Oh my God, remember him?
Yeah. It seems like only yesterday that we were playing badminton.
What?
You know, the game badminton. You got like the little, you got the
Do
birdie.
you play badminton?
No, well, not anymore. Not since Jeff passed. It's actually been hard to do much of anything since then. Get out of bed. Myself in the mirror. I don't know. I've just felt so lifeless.
All right. Well, here's the deal, everyone. Ghislaine Maxwell. Her trial starts officially November 29th. Now that is coming up.
Very soon.
Very soon. It's basically October right now.
Yeah. And I'll be real with you. The trial is already half done. It's coming up so quick.
Yeah. By the time you listen to this, it will already have been over.
She will be free on the streets and at your local, where do people go? Coffee shop. Yeah, she is going to be up in front of the judge on November 29th. I think jury selection starts a couple of weeks before, like on the 15th or the 13th.
Yeah, 13th or 15th, something like that.
My question for that is, I've been like looking about how they selected juries for like other, pretty big cases. I don't think as many people know who Ghislaine Maxwell is as Jeffrey Epstein, obviously, but that question will clearly come up during jury selection. So if you do get selected for this, lie and say you don't know who they are and you actually have no opinion on it.
Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking, hey, wait a minute. Let me look through the little podcast, little stats. And you know how they show you, this is where your listeners are, and I was like, let me zoom in, take a little zoom in on the Southern District of New York.
Really?
To our little podcast listeners out there, little gumshoes, quite a few who potentially could be selected.
Yeah. It's weird. I'm actually looking at this map right now, Liz. I don't know if you've refreshed it lately, but it seems to be mostly from Tel Aviv. And by mostly, I mean like 99%. The other 1%, I think, is using a VPN because it's from Bhutan. But yeah, no, if like, listen, I think I've talked about jury selection stuff on here before, how like most people just get out of it. Although I feel like I've received feedback that people like doing their civic duty. If you usually go in and you're like, legalize crime, like, I don't think, just no, tell them that you're French. You've never heard of Jeffrey Epstein, that you're open-minded and kink positive, but not too much. You're trying to really thread the needle so that her jurors don't throw you out.
Also, if you have somewhere to be in the next, like, let's say 4 to 8 months, cancel it.
Yeah. You got to know. What are you going to do?
You got nowhere else to be.
Come on.
Trial of a century.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have an opportunity to be a part of it. Yes, I'm very much looking forward to this starting, but it is already off to a bit of a rocky start. I mean, it was supposed to happen, I think it was supposed to start a couple of months ago in July, right?
Yeah, it was supposed to start in July. They pushed it back. And then finally, Judge Allison Nathan, recurring character of the podcast, she was like, okay, final. This is the final hard date, November 29th. Boom, it's happening. Which I got to say, right after Thanksgiving, not
when
ideal.
Everyone's tummies are so full and everyone's sleepy. It's everyone's a perfect time to start the trial.
Sleepy. Everyone's gonna be so sleepy.
I know. It's disgusting.
Also, it's annoying because it's like, wait, you're gonna have the trial for what, a week and a half, and then literally everything shuts down because of the holidays.
Yeah. I know, because it's beautiful wintertime in New York and you make a snow angel and frolic with your friends.
No, everyone's just always like, oh, it's almost the holidays, December 17th, everything's got to shut down. Boom, everything shuts down.
Yeah, exactly. I don't really know why I guess they have to start it this year, and that's probably around the latest time that they can start it this year and still get like a couple weeks of like trial in.
Yeah.
But yeah, she was there hasn't been a ton of really important news coming out of the pretrial stuff. But the prosecutors were, like the government side, were ordered by Allison Nathan to disclose, not discuss, the identities of any unnamed co-conspirators. Now, unnamed co-conspirators have been all over the Epstein case, basically since there was an Epstein case. And it appears that the feds have 2 who they're planning on involving in this.
Yeah. They, Ghislaine's lawyers, like, basically lobbied the judge and got them to mandate that the feds release this. They have not yet released the names. They were supposed to on the 13th, which is a little annoying because we were recording this podcast and I thought we would talk about it.
Include in this episode.
Hello, why didn't you get the
I have filed complaints with the SDNY, and all of the prosecutors that I've named are being fired, which hopefully will turn this information over sooner rather than later. But yeah, I was surprised that there's only 2 that they're planning on including, because there's at least, there's like 5 that I could think of off the top of my head. Obviously, Dershowitz is, well, actually, I don't know. He likes talking a lot, so I could see him talking his way into doing this. But Sarah Keller, for example, the host of the other women that assisted Epstein and Ghislaine. So I'm curious that there's only 2 that they're planning on bringing up here. So speaking of people who are in and out of damn courtrooms all the time, there's a corpulent friend of ours and frequent guest and actually occasional co-host of this podcast, Steve Bannon, is in the news lately for eating another hamburger.
Terrible. That was terrible.
You don't like that one?
No.
For eating 2 more hamburgers then. Yeah, I don't know what to make of this.
So New York Times has a huge piece out, a huge profile, a big glossy profile, I think it was in the magazine, on Michael Wolff. He was the guy who, he writes all those kind of like, what I would classify as like airport profile books. He wrote like Fire and Fury, that crazy Trump book that everyone loved. And, you know, he writes those kind of, you know, the books that you see literally on display at airports everywhere. He has a new book coming out called Too Famous: The Rich, the Powerful, the Wishful, the Notorious, the Damned. And in it are some a little interesting tidbit about Steve Bannon and one Jeffrey Epstein. And I think I'm just going to have to read from it. It basically says, a couple months before Epstein got arrested on sex trafficking, so back in 2019, he had started practicing for what Michael Wolff describes as a 60 Minutes style video interview, which included media training from Steve Bannon. So Michael Wolff, this author, he's claiming that Steve Bannon was media training Jeffrey Epstein for some kind of blockbuster 60 Minutes style tell-all months before Epstein was arrested. Obviously, he knew it was coming.
Yeah, it's a little curious so, I mean, there's a few things that I find rather curious about this. Obviously, Bannon and Epstein did know each other, certainly knew of each other, and Epstein would be smart to pick Bannon because he, you know, somewhat close to the president, even though he's sometimes tries to distance himself from him, talk shit on him, et cetera, kind of depending on who he's talking to. My thing is like Michael Wolff does seem like a little bit of a bullshitter.
Yeah,
but
1,000%, 1,000%.
There's really
fun.
There's really funny footage of him. At one point when Fire and Fury, when I think he was like touring, kind of like promoting the book, I mentioned like a couple of times that Donald Trump was having sex with Nikki Haley. Like that, like,
really?
Yeah, he was like, yeah, Trump's been having an affair with Nikki Haley. He just mentioned it like,
can't imagine Trump having sex at all.
I'm imagining that right now. I imagine him doing it reverse cowgirl.
Okay, you just wanted to say that.
Yes. I don't even know which one that is. I've never gotten that far in the process. It's because you don't start there. You usually start with the guy on top, and I've never gotten past that part. It's just been like too much effort. Anyways, he's like, yeah, Trump's fucking Nikki Haley. It's like, I think he says it just like once or twice, but in a public place, like people hear it. It's like reported on, and immediately starts denying that he said it. Like he definitely did say it. And there's a really funny interview with him when he's on like some Australian kind of like morning show or whatever he's calling in. And their final question is like, well, Mr. Wolff, like you recently said that Donald Trump is having sex with Nikki Haley. And he immediately is like, oh, I think my earpiece is broken. And they're like, excuse me?
He's like, they're like, you're not wearing an earpiece.
Yeah, he was. It's just like, obviously he's lying. And then the guy repeats the question, or like, you know, he asks him, like, you can't hear me. And then he's like, oh yeah, guess it's broken, and takes it out. And like, at that point, a stagehand comes up and like, you can hear like the guy talking through the earpiece. And they later, like, I think it's Good Morning Australia or whatever, some version of that. They later confirmed like the earpiece was totally working, but he just gets up and leaves the interview, which, by the way, totally fine to do.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
If anyone, in fact, if anyone ever catches you lying in any context, just pretend you can't hear them and leave.
Just literally walk out of the room.
Say you have to go to the hospital. That's always, people hate arguing with that one.
Yeah, you can't say anything. Like, for what? And you say, you can't ask me. It's a HIPAA violation.
That's private. It's a HIPAA.
That's a HIPAA.
Private. Mm-hmm. Telling people something's private over and over again, too, actually works.
People love that.
Yeah. Because people, they don't want to pry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's a little bit of a, let's say, a yellow journalist here.
So I feel like two minds about that. Part of me does kind of like it because it feels kind of like catty old school, like 80s which
Yeah.
Michael Wolff himself also very much looks like. And
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know, there's like a photo of him sprawled out in his like Greenwich Village apartment that feels very like, kind of mid 90s Manhattan
Yes.
gossipy, which I think is
100%.
very cute. It's a good vibe. But it's interesting because the New York Times like reached out to Bannon to ask him about this. And Bannon was like, no, that's not what we were doing. It wasn't like I wasn't doing media prep or like media training. It was, it's actually for this documentary series that hasn't been announced yet, or maybe will never be announced. That was 8 to 10 hours that was meant to illustrate, quote, how Mr. Epstein's perversions and depravity toward young women were a part of a life that was systematically supported, encouraged, and rewarded by a global establishment that dined off his money and his influence.
So I'm of two minds about this too. I'm a little bit split over this. So Wolf, as far as I can tell, the book is not out yet. This is taken from like probably advanced copies that reporters were allowed to read.
Yeah, it's just PR push.
Exactly, like somewhat summarized. But it appears from the reporting on this that Wolf has not seen the videos himself, but read the transcripts. Maybe he's seen the fact that the videos exist. I don't know. And I will say some of the quotes from Bannon to Epstein here do seem a little bit coaching. I don't know if I imagine 10 to 15 or 10 hours of like, I mean, because they said there's like 10 to 15 hours of video of this. Like, imagine that's quite a lot of transcripts. So I don't know if he got the whole thing or anything like that. He at one point, Bannon advises Epstein not to share his racist theories on how black people learn.
Yeah, I have some questions about that. I would like to hear Epstein talk about that, actually.
Yeah, I mean, Epstein is not known for having many like black friends, let's say, and sticking mostly to white victims as well. So, that being said, I have not seen Epstein advocate for any, let's say, esoteric forms of educational theories there, but I certainly believe he's capable of believing that. Also, he says mainly, this is something from Wolf. Mainly, Mr. Bannon tells Mr. Epstein that he should stick to his message, which is that he is not a pedophile. Now, that's a little bit of true and advice for basically everybody out there. Always stay on that message for yourself.
Yeah, I think in general, if you don't have anything else to say, that's not a bad place to start.
Lull in the conversation. You're on a date with a girl, and you just saw, the Bob Odenkirk action movie, and you walk out of the theater, you're covered in grease from spilling the popcorn because you were trying to cut a hole in the bottom of it to stick your penis through. And there's like a lull in the conversation because she's like looks at you because you're all fucked up and buttery, and you're like, I'm not a pedophile, right? Like, I'm not. And I'm also like, I do have like weird theories on education stuff, but like, you don't need to know those yet. It's a first date.
Yeah. Okay. So my thing is too, now we started this off saying, hey, you live in SDNY, listeners, we need you to get on the jury for the Maxwell trial. That seems obvious. Here's my other thing. Any of you listening out there, Steve Bannon? Get him to release these tapes.
Release the tapes, Bannon.
15 hours of interviews with Epstein, like 2 months before he was arrested. Release the tapes. Release the tapes. If I could go to a gala and wear a slogan-eared dress, it would say, release the tapes, Steve.
Mine would 100% be where the white women at. If I was wearing a dress, like doing like one of the, like a, I don't know, like a Dennis Rodman kind of thing, that's what it would say. Because I would flip everybody out. They'd be like, what does he mean?
And it would get people talking.
That's
how you break the fourth wall or whatever.
Yeah. There's another. Liz, can you actually say...
Here's my thing about the dress. Can I just say one thing about the dress?
Okay, I knew this was coming. And you said you didn't want to talk about this. And I said...
No, I didn't, because this is going to come out too late. And it's like, no one cares. But here's my one thing I'll say. It's like, babe, you're the government. You do it. Why are you telling me?
Yeah, not my
Like-
problem.
Yeah, go for it. Go do it.
My thing is too is like you saw that the dress was made by a woman who's married to a Bronfman.
Yeah, do people know who the Bronfmans are? Because we talk about them a lot.
Yeah,
Jeffrey
I think
Epstein
they do.
worked for one of them once.
Yeah, which is it's yeah, I don't know. I gotta say, I usually hit the Met Gala, like the after parties, most years because I'm still in town from Fashion Week stuff.
Sure.
But this year I decided to skip it. And you know what? I'm glad. Too politicized. So there's another quote that Bannon says to Epstein. And Liz, I'd like you to read it to me and actually look at me. I don't know if you can do this while you're reading it, but can you look at me and say this in your voice, but like mean it to me?
Wait, which one?
Mr. Bannon's remarks on Epstein.
This is what I say to myself when I look in the mirror every day.
Literally asking you to say this to me, but okay.
I know. Well,
guess
that's how
I know.
I'm
Well,
prepared because now I'm ready to say it to you, because I'm used to saying it to myself.
I know that you're saying it to me, but you're saying it to yourself. If
Well.
that makes sense to you. Yeah. Well, say it.
Brace.
Yeah.
Brace Belden. Look at me.
Okay.
You're engaging. You're not threatening. You're natural. You're friendly. You don't look at all creepy. You're a sympathetic figure.
Thank you. Thank you. I've been waiting my entire life for anybody, from my parents to teachers to anybody to see even one of those things for me, especially the second to last one. It's Christ. That is, Liz, thank you. You just
the
undid
Epstein mantra.
2,000 years of anti-Semitism with one sentence.
You don't look at all creepy. What a lovely thing to say to someone.
I've never been involved in setting up like a interview for a documentary or anything like this, but is this what you would say to your guest?
Yeah, that doesn't really seem to. Well, you know what? It could have been a two for one, where it's like you think we're doing media training, but also you're about to be in my, insane globalist screed documentary.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just like,
because it does seem like Bannon totally would put out a documentary series that was like how Epstein is a product of our system, but it's like the Bannon fucking version. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I just find it so odd that Bannon wouldn't have mentioned this before because he's such a little like blabbermouth. I mean, he is like one of the biggest leakers in fucking Washington.
He does also seem like someone who has about, at any given time, 25 to 35 different projects going on that never ever end up going anywhere. Like, you know people like that? Yeah,
100%. And like, he also seems just like he's like dying too. So like maybe he just like doesn't like, he's like hanging out with the Reaper too much, like playing chess or whatever. Like,
big election year coming up. So we're going to see more of him, annoyingly.
Yeah, but anyways, like Liz was saying, you need to release the tapes immediately. I don't think this documentary is going to get made because I have a feeling if he was going to do it, he probably would have done it sometime at all recently. Maybe and after this, I mean, if he does have these tapes, if this actually does exist, I can see him like reassembling those tapes and releasing something to sort of align with the Ghislaine trial.
Just release the tapes, Steve. Release the tapes.
So speaking of people that don't do media training very well, we have once again back on the show, Prince Andrew, one of the most handsome. Why are royals so fucked up? Look, I know it's because they're inbred or whatever.
Well, like, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's
why, because they keep bringing attractive ones in, seeing if that will help level out the genes. Spoiler, it does not.
Should maybe like one generation of royals just like all be like
cold?
They should but like switch with like a different family or something. Like, okay, like we'll have like 4 kids. You guys have 4 kids. Like, I don't know, like the Belgian royal family or like I don't know. They're probably all inbred too. But like, I know they're all connected.
They tried doing that. They would like do that basically in like the 17th century. Didn't
Charles
work. Just
Greek,
more
right?
inbreds.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's just like, can I get in the mix there? Like,
I mean, you could try. I don't think so, though. No offense.
yeah, I don't know, but just like, I feel like I could hang out with Fergie if I. Well, we'll talk about her in a second. Yeah.
Yeah, she's doing a little hanging out with Andrew.
Okay, so last month news was made, I think like August 9th, saying that Off the Dome, but I believe, it's in the notes here. Virginia Jeffrey filed suit against Prince Andrew, also, I believe in SDNY. And ever since then, I mean, so here's the thing. Cuomo, I think we've talked about this on the show before. Cuomo basically gave victims, I think, of a variety of crimes, but most notably sexually assault, basically a year window to file civil claims against people that maybe would have been past the statute of limitations. And that window was extended because of COVID. I believe it ended on the 14th of August this year. And so about 5 days before, Andrew must have been sweating. We'd be like, fuck, that window's going to close. I'll be home free.
Yeah, he's always sweating.
I guess I know he's never technically sweating. But I mean, that guy is coating his body in antiperspirant, which actually does work and really helps you retain a lot of energy. You can actually go like a week or two without drinking water like that. Anyways, she did file suit against him. The suit is for battery and intentional infliction of emotional distress, owing what he did and the way he handled the accusations. Very famously, obviously, denials and then smearing, and of course now refusal of cooperation with U.S. Authorities. The suit accuses him of publicly feigning ignorance over the accusations and then clamming up when he did say that he would help the FBI in any sort of prosecution at all. He did not do that. He's also accused in the suit of sexual assault and, like I mentioned, battery. And you know, when we were putting together this episode, I actually went and looked at. I didn't watch the video. I looked at the transcript of that Newsnight interview he did, and God, I forgot just every single part. It wasn't just like one part he fucked up. Every answer is bad.
Yeah, every answer is bad. I mean, his PR person quit like right after. Remember?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can't think of a worse PR disaster in my lifetime than this.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. You know, it's funny because, you know, she filed this suit, and when it happened, everyone was like, well, I bet this isn't going to go very far. They'll find a way to squash this, blah, 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 blah. Doesn't seem like it, actually.
Well, I'm sort of two minds about that. So they've been trying to serve him for a while. And I would like to quickly shout out the many process servers who answered my call for questions about that process of serving.
The process of process serving?
Uh-huh. So, and let me tell you.
Process of process serve. That would be, yeah, okay.
I would be so good at it. I've thought about doing it before, except I don't know how to drive, which seems pretty crucial. I guess I could, in San Francisco, you kind of just take the bus. But one guy was telling me that he sends edible arrangements if it's like a wealthier person, so that's the thing. If you ever get a mysterious edible arrangements delivery at the door, don't answer it. And don't take anything from it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So he sends an edible arrangements and it has it in it, or he shows up as an edible arrangements delivery person?
I think he buys and maybe picks up an edible arrangement and then brings it, and they think, you know, seeing this large edible arrangement, that he himself is from the company Edible Arrangements. And then
he's like, you got served.
Coupon code TrueAnon 222. And then he serves it to them. And I guess a lot of times I don't take it, which is ridiculous to me, because if I was getting served, like, I would still ask to see if I could get the edible arrangement from them.
Oh, like they know that it's going to be?
Yeah, but it's also funny that he actually does give them the edible arrangements sometimes. Like,
well, it's a lot of cookies or melon. Yeah. You know, sometimes it's a fruit one. They have like healthy ones.
I've never seen one in the wild. But so the deal is, I mean, obviously Prince Andrew is not in the USA. He is ensconced in one of his family's estates. Actually, he's been sort of bouncing between them. And turns out the process server, which they had to have hired like the Delta Force of process servers to get this to him. They couldn't get it to him.
Yeah, they haven't been able to get it to him because he's been out in hiding in Balmoral. where he's been frolicking out, hunting foxes or whatever the fuck these people do.
50,000 acre estate, so he's got plenty of room to walk around.
Yeah. One of the big royal estates, very famous. But they haven't been able to get to him. Little crafty bastard. But now it was just announced that now the British High Court is getting involved and says that he will be served because the British High Court is going to step in and make sure it happens. Which, first of all, I don't know anything about the English justice system.
Wigs.
That literally
they
wig.
wear the wigs.
That's
they wear
it.
The wigs.
That's all I know. Apparently the Canadians do that too, which what an undignified country. Anyway.
Wow. I apologize for her.
I mean, you break it off with the crown, just get rid of the wigs. That's what I say.
Yeah, get rid of the wigs. I'll say that. Get rid of it. If you take me to court in Canada, I'm not going to be able to take you seriously.
I'm not taking that seriously at all. That's not a real court. Kangaroo court.
So I think that they tried 14 or 15 different ways to actually get it to him. And the ones that seem the most legally sound, I guess, from a process serving point of view, was the fact that they gave it to the Metropolitan Police officer at the door, because apparently, and this is something I learned from our many process serving listeners, if it's somebody that regularly accepts mail for the person you're serving, then that counts as well. And I could very well assume that the Metropolitan Police do probably handle some of the royal mail, at least if it's depending on, I guess, the residency. And they served it to his lawyers, which I'm like, I feel like if you're giving it to his lawyers, that counts.
Apparently it doesn't count, though. I don't understand.
Well, we don't know yet. So his lawyers did appear on a phone session in court, but they are also arguing that it didn't count. And the thing is, they would be arguing that even if it was legally sound and did count, because I think that they're just trying not to have this whole thing coincide with Ghislaine's trial, because that would be, for a man who is prone to PR disasters, yet another pretty big fuck up.
And yeah, it would be fantastic for us. Yeah, so it sounds like he is going to end up he will be served. I keep trying to, I don't know, figure out a joke there, but it sounds like he will be, now that the High Court, or Her Majesty's High Court of Justice in England, stupid name, is involved. And that should be pretty interesting. Now, in order to help him out, Andrew's hired new lawyers, including this guy, Andrew Bretler. Now, this is a guy, he works for the, quote, powerhouse law firm. I just really wanted to say powerhouse. Lavely and Singer. This is a guy who is Armie Hammer's lawyer. Mm-hmm. When, as you may recall, Armie Hammer was facing allegations that he was psychologically and sexually abusing women. Yes. And also that he was a cannibal or something. I don't know. I didn't really investigate too much into that. But this law firm also represented Bill Cosby and Bryan Singer. So sounds like Andrew's got some pretty good representation there.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, all of those guys are free.
Yeah, there's probably some fucking pedophile Yelp that he looked him up on or something.
I just got this book, Dossier. I'm looking at it right now. The Secret History of Armand Hammer by, in fact, Edward J. Epstein, who, not a huge fan of him, but it looks to be a pretty entertaining book. I got to say, you're a powerhouse lawyer. Basically, it looks like in LA, 99% of your time is defending guys from sexual assault allegations.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And I guess he was Charlie Sheen's lawyer too.
Yeah. He's got a good Rolodex.
Yeah. They are arguing that the lawsuit has no basis, that in fact that because there was a settlement with Epstein, that Prince Andrew is somehow covered under the terms of that settlement. I have a feeling that no matter, I am no lawyer. What do I look like? A shark? But I am guessing that even if, why are you making that expression? Can you explain?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, cool. Well, just another little piece of passive aggressiveness in the podcast industry. But I very much doubt that Prince Andrew was covered in that settlement. And his lawyers probably know that, but they're just delaying it as long as possible. That this whole thing's gonna be really strung along.
He also announced, or there was some gossip piece, which is so funny. It was in Vanity Fair that he wants to remarry Fergie. that apparently they like rekindled. They say they rekindled their romance during lockdown, which is like total bullshit. Obviously, I want to say that I mentioned this to Brace. I'm gonna peel back the onion layers. I don't know what I'm doing here.
That's like usually, layers of onion.
Anyway, I mentioned this to Brace because I was like, oh, this seems like some horrible legal thing they're going to try and do. Like perhaps there's something they don't ever want to have to testify to because, you know, they were married for so long. They get married, then there's protected, whatever. Brace says, what is it that you said to me? That no, he wants to show the world that he's not into young girls, that he'll do it with old broads.
Yeah. No, I'm serious. I actually think that's like that is his strategy. Is he's going to be like, how can I be a pedophile? I'm married to the oldest woman in the world besides my mother. This is what you think. I like these 14-year-old girls. Look at my wife, who I married twice because I love her so much. She's old. She looks like Alan Dershowitz. Like does. I mean,
she's kind of melting a little bit.
I have a feeling there because she needs it too. You know, she has not exactly covered herself in glory.
Well, she herself, you know, we've covered on the podcast some of her own sort of Epstein-related indiscretions and Maxwell-related indiscretions. So I believe that neither of them want any of that to come out, either in a lawsuit with Andrew or in Ghislaine's trial.
I have no idea if like the wife clause, you know, like because they can't make your wife testify against you, which is, by the way, why they forced the Mormon Church to outlaw polygamy, because a bunch of criminals were just marrying as every woman they came across and did crimes in front of, and none of them could testify. That's how John Dillinger escaped for so long. But yeah, I don't know. I still don't think that he'll ever appear in court. You think they're going to allow that?
I don't think that he will, because I think the crown would step in, to be honest. Like, I really don't think that. Yeah. And I think that there is actually some, like, the White House and would have to be talking with the royal family. Like, that's a whole, like, diplomatic disaster.
Yeah.
That is not going to happen. But I do think that it's going to play out for much longer in the gossip pages, which.
Oh, 100%. Well, I think that the British are still a little sore about one of our diplomats' wives running someone over and then being whisked out of the country by the government. And so that saga was incredible. But so I don't know. It's weird. Part of me has always expected public opinion to sort of like eventually slightly side with Andrew solely because of that. But I think I'm probably a pretty poor judge of British public opinion.
I don't think he's doing very well in the eyes of the British public.
So Rudy Giuliani's been getting drunk a lot lately. You see, look at this. I could be on like a morning zoo. That was such a morning zoo. So Rudy Giuliani's been getting drunk a lot lately.
And it's Morning Zoo, and the fact that you could have said that 10 years ago when Morning Zoo shows were on, and it totally would have been a fine bit.
You know, now, Liz, does it seem to you, fuck, I could never make it on a Morning Zoo. Does it seem to you that like sometimes the whole world is turned into a Morning Zoo?
Yep. And we're all in cages.
Yeah. So if Giuliani's been consistent about one thing in the past few years, is only ever appearing in public when he's really drunk.
I think he's just always really drunk. And so then 100%. When he has to be in public, he's just, oh, fuck, already drunk anyway.
And by the way, something I want to mention is in fucking Borat 2, which sucked, by the way, it was not good. But, you know, famously, they're like, oh, Giuliani was going to get like his shit sucked on by like Borat's like daughter or whatever in the movie. Like he was like unbuttoning his pants.
Vaguely remember something like this.
If Borat, like, listen, if anybody with any freaking cojones was making that movie, they would have just been like, yeah, fuck him. Like, have sex with him and we'll just like play the like 20-minute long sex tape and like full silence except for like the squeaking of the mattresses or whatever. They should have let Giuliani fuck in that movie, is what I'm saying.
Release the tapes.
Anyways, yeah, he went on stage during a 9/11 speech, which is I mean, I guess it makes sense for him to be drunk. It was one of the greatest days of his life, but he did not do well.
No, and the only reason to bring this up besides that, look, if you haven't seen this video, I highly recommend you go watch the video. It's very, very funny. He's very, very drunk, like that kind of sweaty old man drunk. I mean, it's Giuliani. It's how he looks all the
Yeah.
time, to be fair, but he is very
Yeah.
drunk. And he, out of nowhere, brings up Andrew after kind of mentioning the Queen and doing a very poor impression of a British accent. I say
I thought it was pretty
rivals
good.
yours, Brace.
I thought it was actually pretty good. In fact, actually, like a lot of like pretty respectable media outlets like Vulture and Quartz have agreed with me, and Heavy.com has also been saying this too, and it's been on iFunny a bunch. So actually, a lot of people agree with me that it was pretty good.
Yeah, so he brings up out of nowhere. He says, never had drink with him, never was with a woman or a young girl with him, ever. Just in the middle of his speech. Now he says that he doesn't know that this was right when these allegations against Andrew were coming out. It's just pretty funny. It's just like, man, you have the worst timing ever.
Well, I mean, listen, he's just following our rule that we put out at the beginning of this episode, which is always assure people during a lull in a conversation or perhaps a speech when you can't exactly remember where you were necessarily going with the next line, that you're not a pedophile. And it was the absolute perfect place to do it. I mean, he was saying that, like, I think he was saying that the Queen was going to knight him after 9/11, but that he would have to give up his American citizenship, which that sounds so fake to me. I don't think the Queen is going to
totally
ask
fake
America's mayor to give up his citizenship. More like she was going to ask him to give up a little bit of location, a little bit of anthrax. But yeah, it's just, I don't think that played very well with the British public either, because they still like the Queen for some reason, even though every single thing that's ever come out of her fucking body has been like an insane freak, like it's like slobbering maniac. And so, yeah, he was incredible during that speech.
Yeah, people were asking him, they're like, hey, have you been drinking? And he's like, I just had a single glass of scotch, which I don't think he had one glass. But if he did only have one glass, then he's a cheap drunk. He was wasted.
He's like, I just had like a Sparks and then like a half pint of Jameson. Like, it's all good. Like, I'm right. I had like a bump of ketamine.
He's kept Sparks in his, like, every year on 9/11, he has a Sparks in remembrance of the time period of 9/11, which is when Sparks was on shelves still.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I think Sparks came out a little later than that. It was probably the greatest era of my entire life. And if they'd kept Sparks around, I think this country would be a lot different and frankly a lot better. So occasionally people ask me, do you think Ghislaine will be killed before?
Wait, do people really ask you that?
People have asked me that. People for some reason are like, I'm going to ask this guy about Epstein. Like, dude, I haven't hung out with him in years. Like, I don't know what he's up to. Like, it's frankly none of my business.
Release the tapes.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we're
Ask
both.
Steve, he's right next to me, dude. That's what you should say.
Yeah, I do. Like, we're both on this, like, in this In-N-Out having burgers together, like a ton of hamburgers together. But I don't think that they're going to kill Ghislaine. I mean, I've said from the beginning that if Ghislaine is like somehow incapacitated, they're going to make her like developmentally disabled somehow, or like drive her insane. But they're not going to kill Ghislaine, especially not before the trial starts. No way. No, I mean, she has been obviously complaining about poor conditions in her jail. I mean, the jail does look pretty shitty, but it does not seem like the tenor of the stuff coming out from her legal team and the stuff being reported on the press. It doesn't. I don't see it happening anytime soon. I mean, they're checking on her every like 5 minutes, because if they have a repeat, it's not going to be. it'll pull back the veil, I think, a little too far. But I'm very much looking forward to the beginning of this trial.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We will both be there, right there,
Mm-hmm.
hoping they let us in.
In the docket next to her.
No, we'll be
We
there.
are
We'll
the
be there.
unnamed co-conspirators.
Named in the indictment, announced. That would be a real twist to this entire enterprise.
If you were just like his like assistant for a while, like
No, like if
I
they
needed a job
released
out
the names of the
college.
co-conspirators and it was Brace Felton and Liz Prince.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's like you like worked for him like out of college for a little bit. Like I was like, I was just like trying to learn how to fly a freaking plane in Florida, like some of my heroes have done in the past. And like, we kind of came into contact with them and we're snitchy. But the thing is, I would never snitch.
Yeah, we got swept up. Yeah, but I wouldn't
Mhm.
snitch either.
No, because I'd be afraid of getting hurt. Well, with that being said, I'm Brace.
My name is Liz. We are, as always, joined by producer Young Chomsky. The podcast is True Anon, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Let's go shoot. Jeffrey Epstein. Let's go shoot. Jeffrey Epstein.